Yep.
I am.
All right, let's call to order the Water Sewer Commission meeting for, what is today, July 18th,
All day.
2023. Let's see, Commissioners' public forum. Is anybody here for the public forum? All right, hearing none, let's move on to the minutes, warrants, and abatements. Peter McLam. Peter, I think you might be muted. Peter McLam, you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep,
Sorry about that.
no problem. Can you read the minutes and warrants and abatements, please?
I'm kind of driving.
You're driving, okay.
All right, I will, I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes of June 6th, 2023 as printed.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
All right, Peter, roll call vote, please.
All right, Mr. Bernard,
Here.
Mr. McLam, Peter McLam for the vote. Mr. Jennings
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 3-4, 1 abstention for the minutes.
All right, next, I'll make a motion that we accept the warrants and senior abatements as printed.
Mr. Chair, can we hold off on the senior abatements until you approve them? They are on our agenda. If we can just do the warrant, or you want to jump ahead to new business, item A is the senior abatements.
We might as well roll it all into one, Pete, since we usually do it at this section of the meeting now.
Yeah, the senior abatements, so you approve annually. So this,
Okay.
they need to be approved for this fiscal year FY 24. So
All right, Russ, can we just get a motion for the warrants?
You want to do it in two separate ones?
Yeah.
Unless you want to jump ahead to the senior abatements under new business, we can approve the senior abatements and then you can approve the warrant and abatements at one time like normal.
All right,
Sure.
I will make a motion like that, Russ.
I'll make a motion that we approve the senior abatements as printed.
Okay.
Can we get a second, please?
Second.
second.
Roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
As far as the warrant goes, there's only one invoice attached. And that's for WB Mason for office supplies for $8.76. And
But we have stuff from last week, don't we?
No, you guys, the three of you signed it.
we got 3
Oh,
signatures.
okay. Okay.
So we have that one bill to pay, and then the total senior abatements for this quarter is $851.99.
I'll make a motion, we accept those as printed. Second.
Roll call vote, Peter.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. Jennings,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
I'm sorry, who seconded that?
I believe Eric did.
Sorry?
I just
Yeah, I
want to
did
know,
the second.
okay, thank you.
Eric, are you on your cell phone as well?
Yeah, I'm probably showing up as a dial-in. I'm on the Zoom, but I chose voice over dial-in.
Okay. So so your iPhone is showing up as your iPhone, and then there's a 0327 number as well. Is that both of you?
Yeah, oh yeah, 03, yes, exactly. 0327 is the cell I'm dialed in on, and I'm on the iPhone via
Okay,
video.
awesome. Great, thank you.
Okay, moving on, scheduled appointments. Vinny, monthly operating report for May.
All right, so we'll be covering the month of May 2023. The plant was staffed by myself and Grant Krisiak. Health and safety, Veolia's monthly inspection was completed on the 4th. The quarterly safety objectives were traffic management, which is a high-risk management standard. And we had to do a traffic management on-site assessment as well as an outside assessment. And each of these assessments were about 150 questions. They really took a lot of work to complete. But we came up with some good things out of them. We ended up painting a crosswalk in the driveway and identifying areas we can do a better job. Training for the month was on fall prevention, heat stress, and stormwater pollution prevention. Compliance for the month, there were no exceedances to report. The DMR was completed and entered into the CDX on June 15th. And during the month of May, on May 7th, toxicity testing began. Operations and maintenance activities. We installed a sunshade over Clarifier 1 to help cut down on the algae growth. COMAG, we ended up having a floating blanket again. It's really weird stuff. It's green sludge, and it doesn't come all the way to the surface, but it doesn't sit on the bottom like it's supposed to. So I met with Veolia's technical and performance team. We went over a bunch of scenarios on what could be causing it, and they recommended a series of testing. And the series of testing was gonna cost about $1,700. So we made the decision to wait and see if it happened again, and then we pull the trigger on the special testing. It has not happened since these couple of occurrences. So we're just gonna chalk it up as an anomaly. Wright Pierce and CH Nickerson had a meeting, and they internally were reviewing the upgrade costs and finding ways to reduce the costs before they bring it back to you guys. So hopefully they can finish it up soon and we can see what that's gonna look like. We built a shelf outside to hold the grinder pump tanks. These tanks are really big. They take up a ton of room to store them. So we built the shelving and placed it behind the building. And we covered the tanks up with a tarp so they won't get no UV bleaching. We replaced the influent sampler tubing. We set up a trash pump to bypass the EQ tanks during the valve replacement project. Slims was here for 2 days to replace the EQ tank discharge valves. And during this process, we had to pump all 4 of the EQ tanks right down to nothing. It was really a lot going on for a few days. We also made some process control sheets to post in the lab, so the operators have somewhere to reference the key items to monitor. And we try to keep certain parameters in a special area, and it's better if the operators can just reference it quickly instead of finding me every time they have a question. So we reviewed and completed the Veolia traffic management assessments and discussed potential action plans. And we have about 1.5 years to complete our action plans on the Veolia side. RBC maintenance was performed. We checked belts, did some grease, checked the oils. RBC number 2, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this on the previous months, but there was a dosing bucket in that RBC that would grab a bucket of water and splash it around every time it made a revolution. and the mounting brackets for it were worn out, so it was making this strange banging noise on every revolution. And we thought it was the chain we had replaced the year before, but it was actually the dosing bucket. That's the only RBC that has one. So we took it out of there and it's running quiet ever since. And we rebuilt the roller packs on the polymer pumps. Collection system activities. On May 7th and the 18th, we collected the MTA samples. 71 Osgood Road, the sewer system was tied in. We pumped out a manhole on Lakeview Drive to inspect the structure to see why the road around it looked like it was settling, to see if the concrete was caved in. And when we opened it up, it looked fine inside, so it's just around it. 6H Putnam called about a sewer backup. The manhole near the facility was checked and it was clear, so the problem was in their building. The pump station activities, all weekly pump station rounds and tests were completed. LaFleur Electric worked on installing the new dialer systems in all the pump stations. On the 15th, South Sturbridge Pump Station had a power loss alarm at about 3 in the morning. And then that same day at 4 p.m., North Sturbridge Road had a power loss. On May 21st, 6 West basement was found full of water. We added a second sump pump and isolated pump 1. That pump 1 had a bad mechanical seal, so every time it would run, it would just blow water all over the basement floor. And currently, we're working on fixing that. We added fuel to the Route 20 generator. Down to the sludge hauls from the plant, we hauled 10 loads during the month of May. And that's an increase from last year. We're already closing in on what we hauled for last year. When we did this EQ project, we knew we were going to stir up a lot of sludge. And the stuff on the bottom of those tanks, it's probably 10% solids. We didn't test it, but it's very dense. So when you move it around, it starts taking up 2 to 3 times the volume that it previously did. And then we just chased it around trying to get rid of it. So we pulled 10 loads of sludge out of the plant. And that theme has continued up until this week. We just having a hard time reeling in the sludge and getting it under control. Chemicals, we only got 2 totes of sodium hydroxide for the month. Grinder pump calls. We had a call out to 171 Sunset. There was some grease on the floats. We cleaned it up. It was okay. We went to 110 Glen Echo Road. And we installed a redundant run. It was already an upgraded system. 11 Sunset, we installed a redundant run. Special notes. We collaborated with the Amazon engineers to compile a list of critical equipment needed for the Route 20 pump station upgrade. And it looks like they'll be putting a package together for us. And then Veolia hired an administrative assistant to help with all the new Veolia policies and programs. And most of her tasks are safety associated. There's just so many new safety programs Veolia is rolling out with this year. It's hard to keep track of them all. So her job is to do that and work on the CMMS system along with updating all of our bookkeeping. Anybody have any questions?
Nope.
No question, there, Vinny. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, guys.
Moving on to new business. We went over the senior abatements, so now we have a Chapter 61B release. Go ahead, Pete.
Yes, we received a request to move approximately 24 acres of land from Chapter 61B on Brookfield Road. As part of this request, the Board of Selectmen has a right of first refusal to purchase the property. The Board of Selectmen asks other departments in town to make a recommendation on whether there is a need for them to exercise that right. At this time, looking at this parcel and where it is, I do not see any necessary use of the property for our department. So I would ask that you vote to recommend that the Board of Selectmen do not exercise their right of first refusal on this request.
Can somebody make that motion, please?
Make a motion to accept as written. To not.
Can I get a second?
It's Eric, I'll second.
Roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. McLean,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Mr. Jennings had to drop off the
Alright.
call, so it's just the three of you.
Okay, fantastic. Let's see here. Pete, under new business, rules and regulations for metered sewer and water billing.
Yes, so in our current rules and regulations, which is a policy, I believe, that is voted by the board, there are the following two statements. In section 2.3, it states all customers receiving public sewer service must file an application for metered billing prior to any change or transfer of ownership of the property connected to the sewer. And said property must be set up for metered billing in accordance with this regulation prior to the date of closing. And concurrently with that, in section 5.4, in the event of transfer of ownership of the premises, the seller shall notify the commission of such transfer. Otherwise, the seller shall remain liable for a charge incurred by the premises until notice is received. These requirements are causing us issues in the office when these homes are sold, especially 2.3. Because 2.3 requires the seller to install a meter and set up metered billing. Unfortunately, homes are sold that we might not be notified of before the transfer. So we get information that of who the new owner is, and we send out a letter asking them to switch over to metered billing. But according to our regulations, it's a seller's responsibility. So this is kind of, tripped us up a couple times, and there's a couple of, residents who become owners and they say it was the seller's responsibility and they're not doing it. And we haven't really had any enforcement action, nor do I think we should. So I think it would be cleanest for us in the office if we can just remove these two sections from that policy. I've attached the policy in its entirety in case you guys want to review it. There's some legalese there and some other stuff, but it seems like those two sections are really what kind of trip us up. So I just kind of wanted to throw that out there and see what your thoughts were.
So I kind of agree with you, Pete. There's no way for us to police sellers of their homes here in Charlton prior to any type of closing or negotiations that they may do with a potential buyer. So yeah, I agree with you. I think that 2.3 is kind of a impossible thing for us to keep track of, or anybody to keep track of.
Do we, rather than
Anybody
take it
else?
out completely, should we switch it to it's the buyer's responsibility, just to make it clear?
If you make it the buyer's responsibility, then they ending up with maybe $1,000 or $1,300 charge to purchase the meter, have it installed, have the plumbing inspector inspect it. It's a cost that they might not be aware of, and it's something that I think would cause might irk some new residents moving to town, or it already does when we send them the letter. So I'm not really sure there's a need to require them to connect to metered billing. I know in the past, prior commissions back in the early 2000s, it was a big push for them to try and get as many people on metered billing as possible. But I think based on how our billing is going now and how things are, I don't necessarily see that same need in front of us.
Okay, how do we bill now if it's not metered billing?
Flat rate based on bedrooms. So it's
Okay.
it's $77.83 per bedroom.
Got it. And we think that's fair market value. We're not losing money. We can't potentially charge more.
I do not think we're losing money on that figure. I think the only reason to charge more would be if you wanted to get people to transfer over to metered billing. You could charge more, so they were
Okay.
almost penalized for staying in that flat rate status.
Right, I gotcha. And
Yeah,
the timing probably isn't right to do that right now, right?
no, I mean, I think as part of a rate study, and when we look at adjusting our sewer rates in the future, in the next year or two, we could we can look at changing that at that time, but for now, I think we have, you probably have a couple of 2 or 3 bedroom units where there's only 2 people living there and they stay on flat rate for whatever reason, so they use less than what they pay for. And then you probably, you might have some 2 bedroom units with maybe 4 or 5 people living in there and they use more than what they're actually paying for, but so it averages out in the long run.
I got you. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah, I'd agree with removing that then. Thanks for answering the question.
Sure.
I'm assuming you need a motion for this, Pete, to remove those items.
Yeah, I mean, if we could just get a motion to remove those 2 sections as stated in the memo, that'd be great. It'd be
I'll make
sections 2.3 and 5.4.
I'll make a motion to remove sections 2.3 and 5.4 from the regulations.
Can I get a second on that?
Second, Eric.
Peter Allen, roll call vote.
Mr. Bernard,
Aye.
Mr. McLeod,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye. Number 6, old business.
No.
I'll actually take this here. If you don't mind, Pete.
No, sorry, Dave, there's one more item under new business, we added in between from last week. You must be looking at last
Okay, go ahead.
week's. So we're looking at doing a couple of 20-foot storage containers at the treatment plant. We have an kind of an older wooden shed that's kind of in disrepair. And we'd like to replace that with, say, a 20-foot storage container that just keeps some, I don't call it, like landscape equipment. There's shovels in there, there's some extra belts and stuff like that for some outside equipment, weed whacker, snow blower and stuff like that. And then we'd also like to take, and I think Vinny would also like to put some chemicals in that storage container as well. And then we'd like to add another 20-foot storage container closer to the building that we can keep our new forklift in. We're currently keeping the new forklift in the chemical room. And with this humidity, especially inside the treatment plant during this time of year, because there's so much water and fluid in there, we keep it in the chemical room. And when that humidity mixes with the chemicals, it creates a really corrosive environment. So that new forklift we just got in January is already starting to kind of pit and rust in certain areas. So we just kind of, I think these storage containers will probably be the cheapest and easiest way for us to kind of get some better storage for what we have. I got a price of $4,200 for each storage container delivered. And I also reached out to Highway Department to see if they would do some of the prep work where we'd like to place them, and they were willing to do so. So because of the cost of the containers, I just don't want you guys, actually, I'd like to get your input and make sure you agree with it and you're okay with the cost. We do have money in our budget to support the purchases.
Peter, 20-foot enough?
The
storage?
only thing
Because of what we have for space, yes, a 20-foot will probably be able to take at least 1 or 2 totes of chemical plus the fork truck.
Okay.
Yeah, and then where we're gonna put it, where the shed, the 20-footer is bigger than the existing shed, so. Yeah, I think they're kind of, and that way they won't look too, again, our footprint here at the sewer treatment plant isn't that big, so I think if a 40-footer might kind of look out of place. We're not, they're probably not
Did you
gonna
say
be right
anything
close
about-
to each other.
Sorry, did you say anything about removing the old structure?
Yes, the wooden shed will come down and the storage shed will take its place.
Okay, got it. And that'd be part of the 8,000?
Correct, yeah. I mean, we might have to pay for the material if we need some gravel and stuff like that for the highway department to put down, but I'm not sure that would be, a huge amount.
Peter, any thoughts or concerns about the chemicals eroding out the metal storage containers?
No, because while they're in that,
Yeah.
while they're in that tote,
Yeah,
it's
it's-
sealed.
But yeah, they're sealed in the totes. Yeah, okay.
So as long as they're not open, they don't have that same, they don't create that same
Okay.
environment.
Yeah.
You know, it's because in the chemical, they're open, the hoses are coming out, the pumps are there.
How,
Okay,
how
somebody
do you
like,
secure them? Is it just padlock?
Yes. Yeah, again, the whole site is secure, so when we leave at night, the whole site is fenced and then the gate is locked. So nobody has access onto the treatment plant property per se, but they would also be locked as well, yes.
all right, somebody make a motion.
I'll make a
Motion to
motion.
approve.
You go.
Second,
Roll call vote, Peter.
All right, Mr. Bernard,
aye.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Who ended up
Thank you.
making the motion? Who
They
said it
both,
first?
they both did, Sue. You can choose.
Okay,
Rock, paper, scissors.
Yeah. Moving on, guys, is a employee evaluation for our superintendent. In the past boards, I guess we've got some paperwork handed out to us to fill out for employee evaluation. And it never seems to get turned in, as we all have busy lives. But I do want to make sure that something gets on record, showing, just saying that, you know, Pete and Sue have been, you know, above satisfactory employees and whatnot down at the plant, just to get something on record. So if somebody can make a motion for that, and that way we don't have to fill out the paperwork. Hello,
I'll make a motion to put it on file that they're outstanding employees.
can I get a second?
Yes, I feel like I need to abstain, given I just got here.
That doesn't give us a quorum, right, Pete?
No,
Yeah,
it
I
does.
know, but
No,
It does.
Oh.
Yeah, no, it does. Okay.
yeah, it does, because it'd be 3. Yep.
Yeah. Roll call vote, Peter.
Well, someone still needs a second.
Oh,
So
I
Dave,
seconded it.
you, okay. All right, so roll call vote, Mr. Bernard,
Nice.
Abstain.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
and Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
So motion carries 2-4, 1 abstention.
Thank you. Other business,
None?
next week's, next meeting, Peter? Still August
Sure.
8th?
It's up to you. August 8th is 3 weeks away, or we can push it out to the middle of August, August 15th. Depends if anyone has any travel plans or anything like that. I'm open.
I prefer to do it the 15th, if that's all right.
Yeah, same here. That works better for me.
Fine with me.
All right. Let's
August
do that then,
15th it
August
is?
15th.
Great.
All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second,
Roll call vote, Peter?
All right, Mr. Bernard,
aye.
Mr. McLam,
Aye.
Mr. Cantwell.
Aye.
Excellent.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a
Have a
great
good night,
night.
everybody.
Thanks a lot.
You too.
Night, Sue.
good night.